That's
share
what it is,
stories.
to share our stories or share women's stories and help other women understand that they're not alone in the
that they're not alone,
in the
and they have a
situation that
way
they
to break
feel.
free from that.
Right.
That's where
Right.
I teach them on my mindset coaching and overall to break from limiting beliefs and undercover their potential. Because I have a quote that I remember when I first thought about rooted in her, and it was, everything you've been searching for has always been within you. Every hope, dream, and desire. It's
Yeah.
always been within you. Now it's your job to dig deep and release it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the David Adam Kurz Show.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the David Adam Kurz Show. As you can see, we set up our studio just a little bit different today. Usually I'm coming from this direction or we're in the actual studio. This time we decided to run it David Letterman style with my special guest today. I'm excited, by the way, for a couple different reasons. I think that I might say some really good stuff that Jeanette's going to really like, and I might say some controversial shit that she might not like. And so we're going to have a little bit of fun today, but I'd like to introduce you guys to Jeanette Miranda, wife, mother of two, speaker, podcaster, mindset coach. Her mission is to empower women to rise behind cultural expectations, limiting beliefs, and helping them step into their fullest potential. Founder of Rooted in Her,
Yes.
and founder of Taboo Talks Latina Edition. And so I'm going to tell you guys, and I'm going to tell Jeanette why I wanted to interview you. I have 4 daughters. And so for me, this particular topic is controversial in my own head because I want my daughters to be boss ladies, but I also believe in a man's and women's place. And it becomes a controversial situation for me because it becomes very difficult to do both things. I see it in my wife all the time. Yeah. My wife is a boss lady, but my wife also tries to be mom and wife and, caretaker. And it's a lot of times very hard to combine those two pieces, right? Because I'm a guy, am blessed to be just a go work, make money, take care of family, keep roof overhead, right? And that's not dialed into my wife's head. My wife's wants to make money because she wants to make money. She wants to be a boss lady. She wants to do better for herself. She wants to prove her worth as a woman in this planet. But also she wants to be a great mom, and she wants to be a great wife, and she wants to be a great daughter because our mothers live with us, by the way. And it's exciting stuff. So I'm excited to have you here because I want to kind of have some of these conversations. But before I get into all of that craziness, I want to ask you some simple stuff. First of all, what is Rooted in Her?
So first, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to get to continue to be a voice for so many women and girls out there, because I feel that as women, like you just said, we carry so much on our shoulders, right?
Absolutely.
And before I became a mom, I had a whole different identity, right? Of a career I was trying to establish that I thought at some point it was going to be the one. And a lot of transition and pivoted moment that brought me to where I am today. So Rooted in Her was built about 3 years ago. And that was one of my darkest moments where my mental health was in a dark space. You would think, well, why, Jeanette, right? You have a great husband. You just had 2 babies. I felt that I, again, had lost my identity and I felt lost. I felt that, okay, I am just a mom. And as I am blessed and I am grateful to be a mom and a wife, there's so much more within me that I want to accomplish.
And that's a crazy thought, right? Because being a mom is the absolute most important job in the world.
Absolutely.
Right? It truly is. Yeah. Way more important than being a father. Not that a father's not necessary, but being a mom, there's no replacing being mom. And there's just this internal calling inside of you that says, hey, I understand this is important, but you're so much more.
Yeah. Because to me, it was also what I'm going to leave for my kids, the legacy. Why am I going to, when they tell me I want to accomplish something, I'm going to tell them, go for your dreams. And I never went for mine. Right. So I always saw the bigger picture of, well, I need to lead by example, but I also want to, like you said, you provide, right?
Yeah.
As a man, my husband does too, but I want to also provide for myself. I don't want to be independent. I want to be independent. I don't want to be depending on him constantly. But also I felt that I was ambitious once. And what happened to me then? It was just mom, 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 mom. So in that circle of life, I felt disconnected with myself. When I would put the boys to bed, I felt empty in a way. I felt fulfilled when I was with them and everything that I was able to accomplish with them, but then I felt lost.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized if I feel this way, so many women out there feel the same.
Oh, for sure.
And
I mean, I absolutely do.
When I started talking about it, I started with monthly events. I started hearing the stories of different women from different stages of life, just overall, like sharing how they've also felt this way, or not just as a mother, but in a career, how they've had this career for 40 years and then they pivoted.
Yeah.
And they were not okay with that because what are people going to say, right? And all those doubts and all the times that we have the limiting beliefs, and it's also due to the way that we grew up. Like, to me, it's the Hispanic culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to grow up, get a college degree, find your 9 to 5 and retire. And I knew I was meant for so much more.
And that's that's a progressive Hispanic culture, because the real Hispanic culture is, graduate high school, meet a man, get married, have babies, be a mom, take care of your husband. And then to the boy, it's, meet a woman, become a father, get a job, work hard your entire life, 40, 50 years, retire and take care of the household, right? Like that's the more so Hispanic mentality. The more 100%. Progressive is, actually go to college, become something, and then like go back to work and then retire, right?
And then retire. And
right,
that's
right.
That's the legacy you built for yourself, right? Because we all know that that's not the way to live.
It's not.
But it's also what's within us of what we saw. Like you said, there's two, whether you marry the man that has the money and you become the wife and the mother and do all the house chores, right? Or you have the 9 to 5 career that is the rat race.
Yeah.
So with Rooted in Her, I felt that so many women were feeling the same way. And it also showed us that through story, because I'm passionate about storytelling, we get to not just connect, we get to collaborate, we get to know we're not alone, but we also get to heal in the process.
Yeah.
Because I went through miscarriages too in the past, and hearing from other women that I wasn't alone. I wish I had that platform before, because you see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
You hear stories, but then when it's happening to you, you feel lost.
Yeah.
You feel lonely.
All the stories disappear.
Of course.
Yeah.
So building that foundation was important to me. And then with Rooted in Her took off the Rooted in Her podcast as well, which is also became a storytelling, getting to know women from all over the world and what they've done, what they are accomplishing, where they're heading next, right? And then also my merch, because I also have the women empowerment gear. So it's been a whole mission behind Rooted in Her.
So Rooted in Her realistically is designed to tell a woman's story.
It's to share.
That's what it is, to share our stories or share women's stories and help other women understand that they're not alone in the situation
they have a
that
way
they
to break
feel.
free from that.
Right.
That's where I teach them on my mindset coaching and overall to break from limiting beliefs and uncover their potential. Because I have a quote that I remember when I first thought about Rooted in Her, and it was, everything you've been searching for has always been within you. Every hope, dream, and desire. It's always been within you. Now it's your job to dig deep and release it.
Yeah.
And that was just the foundation of when I was with the vision of Rooted in Her, knowing that each of us have something unique within us, but somewhere along the way we lost ourselves, whether it was through marriage, through motherhood or career, that we feel like we're not capable of what's next.
It's interesting because, obviously this is not a thing that only happens to women, right? As passionate as you are about women and women empowerment in mindset and breaking through these limited beliefs, I'm actually equally excited and committed to the men's side of it.
I love that.
Right? Because I think the man has really changed over the last 50 years, and in my opinion, has become less of a man.
Yeah.
And we're losing men, and not to, I don't want to make this sound like I'm talking about the LGBTQ community, or that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about men who are straight and married and kids. They've become lesser men. Like testosterone levels are lower. Aggression is lower. And I don't mean nasty aggression. I mean the excited aggression that a man has to be who he is. and it's disappearing.
Yeah.
And I think that our stories, our two stories and our two passions coincide in certain ways, both good and bad.
Correct.
Right. I think that there's been a chain of events that has happened over many years. We went from a world where the man worked and the woman was mom and wife, right? And then that turned into man and woman worked because women wanted to work and provide for themselves. But I think that also changed the world because the world said, well, now you got two incomes, so we can be more expensive, right? And so now we can't live in a single income home unless you make a lot of money, right? And now we're in a situation where it's not for 95% of the families in America, it's not if you want to work, it's what job you want to have.
Yeah, you have to.
Now you have to.
Yeah.
Now you've lost your opportunity to decide if you want to be mom and wife, or if you want to be entrepreneur, or if you want to be 9 to 5, which, by the way, in my brain, right, I might be wrong, and in this conversation I might find something with you, but in my brain, whether a woman is mom and wife, 9 to 5 and mom and wife, or entrepreneur and mom and wife, no path is incorrect. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with any of the paths, right? The woman who chooses to be mom and wife and doesn't want to work because she wants to be mom and wife doesn't make her any better or less than the woman who says, I'm going to build an enormous business. And by the way, that means that my family might suffer time with me,
No, and I agreed. And I feel that's something too from men's perspective, right? How they want their wife to, like, what they want them to do or what makes them happy. Like, to me, there was a stage in my life that I did want it to be present. And I was. That I wanted to just be with my boys and I wanted to just give them my everything because I wanted to be a mom so bad. And I still do. That they're my life. And then as I saw them grow, I'm like, okay, I am ready to take the next step. But then I felt the same thoughts that you just spoke about. There's so many women out there that I connected with that they kept thinking, well, I'm not good enough because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Or I'm not good enough because I'm a working mom and I have my kids in daycare. With my kids. So we were constantly like in the battle of, are we not good enough? We're not worthy enough. We are not capable.
And by the way, this is a woman issue, by the way, because men don't think that way.
I agree.
Right? Men don't think that way. Like, yeah, we want to spend time with our kids and stuff.
But you guys need to provide. You guys are.
If we go to work, we're providing. So you know what? I fed you. I clothed you. I put a roof over your head. Listen, I agree. Life is life. But a mom can't think that way. A woman's brain doesn't work that way. A woman's like, that's a constant tug of war that you guys face.
And it's tough, especially depending the season that you're in. And if you don't have that support system to back you up too. Yeah. Because I believe also it's the community or the support you have. And it could be in your household too. It could be your spouse. It could be your family. It could be your friends that put stuff in your head and make you feel that you're not worthy enough. Like, when are you going to find that career? Or when are you going to have enough time with your kids? Like, it's never enough.
Oh, yeah. And then especially in the Latino families.
Especially in the Latino family. We carry that way with us.
Yeah. Especially if your parent, by the way, was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. Like, because that's my wife's situation, right? Like, my wife's mother was a stay-at-home mom her whole life. And my wife she enjoyed that as a child. So she tries to play the role of that and chief operating officer of David Adam Kurz companies. And that's a really hard thing to do, to balance those two things. And if you know anything about me, I'm at 1,000,000 miles an hour. In order for her to be COO of me, she's got to be at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah. And so one day I sat her down and I said, listen, my entire goal in life is for you not to work, which basically means that if you work, it's because you want to, not because you have to. Sweet. And that's what's important to me, which also means that she could spend some hours here and then go pick them up from school.
Yeah, have that flexibility.
Right. And take them to volleyball practice and study groups and pick up the boyfriend and drop him off at the movies and, do all this other stuff, stuff that I don't have the time to do because I'm here.
Of course.
Right.
I love that. Yeah.
And that's just, I guess, the way I think about it. Talk to me about Taboo Talks Latina Edition.
So Taboo Talks, I'm the co-founder. I I actually had Cynthia on my podcast. I'm Rooted in Her late last year. And she introduced me to the idea after we got off the podcast. She's like, I have this vision that I want to do basically what you've been able to do with Rooted in Her, but this is for empowering the Latina, breaking taboos, talking about nuestra cultura, kind of how we grew up in our roots, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm into it. She's like, let's do a YouTube channel. And I felt that it was aligned with me and we went with it. We actually launched our first episode November of Thanksgiving. And since we've had 760 subscribers, we get anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 hits on the videos. And it's because it's women like us, right? Latinas that can relate.
Listening in.
Talking about the subjects that you and I are just going back and forth, about motherhood, about career, about how we grew up, toxic relationships, right? La mujer es tóxica. And it's true because we don't talk about it. We're always laughing and making jokes. You see all the humor, but really there's stuff that,
I met many of those before I met my queen.
In Miami, right?
Oh my God. Listen, I was born and raised in New York and I live in Miami, and both places equally. Okay. There's a lot of toxicity out there.
So we are real and raw about those conversations, but also conversations that need to be heard. And ever since we started that movement, it's been very close to me because it's similar to pretty much with Rooted in Her, right? We still do our storytelling. We still connect us as women and remind us that we're not alone and that whatever we went through doesn't define where we're heading.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too.
That's awesome. I love that because I think it gives people, I'm going to compare it to something I do every morning. So every morning I open up YouTube. I am a conservative Republican. And I open up YouTube and the first thing I search for is Ben Shapiro. And I turn Ben Shapiro on in the morning and I listen to him talk for an hour. And our beliefs are similar, right? We're both Jewish. We're both Republicans. We're both family men. We're both lovers of our country. We both are super in tune with what's going on in the government, but he studies it. And I'd rather hear from him every morning what's going on in the world than scourge the internet trying to figure it out, right? And so I'm listening to him. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. And I kind of feel like that's a woman listening to your podcast going, that's right. It's true.
Because you get to relate, like you said, you have it within you. You just don't have the platform for it. You can, of course, but you rather listen to it. And
I'd rather totally listen to him.
Want to tune in. They want to feel heard. They want to feel seen, but they don't also want to be the first one. So they feel in a way, well, okay, she show up, I'm going to do it. Or she was able to speak about this topic. I'm willing to also speak about it. And that's what I love about it, because we constantly get submission from women who want to be on the show.
Right.
And it's because they feel like, oh my gosh,
they want a voice.
Yeah, somebody understands us and they're not going to judge.
So I want to understand, and not only for me, but for everybody watching, I want to understand your mission a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that from what I'm hearing, I feel like your mission goes in a lot of different directions. And it was interesting because I said to you, no matter which path the woman chooses, one is not lesser or more than the other.
I agree.
And you said you agree. Whereas there's an entire movement of women that would look at me and go, you're insane. Like, no woman should be home, like, without a job. How does she defend herself? And how does she protect herself if her husband leaves her? And I'm going, why are you instantly assuming the husband's going to leave her? Right? Like, how many people do you know that have been married for 80 years, right? Like, it happens, and it happens because I believe that the man and the woman find their place in the world and together.
Yeah.
And if that means that he's a 9-to-5 and she's a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur and he makes a quarter of the money she makes, then so be it. If it's the opposite, then so be it. I mean, right now in this world, we got stay-at-home dads. Okay.
True.
If that works for them, who am I to judge you?
And that's where the problem is. The judging.
That's the judging is the problem.
Right?
So explain what your mission is with all the women, no matter what their idea is.
I want them to thrive in whatever life they want. right? Whether they have a full-time career, they are a stay-at-home mom, they want to be present, they just want to be a wife. Like, I just want them to know that they can find that fulfillment within them. That I want them to put their worth on anyone or anything, right? And I think that's where we lose ourselves as women too. That we're like, if we don't have the husband, we feel like we're not enough, right? If we don't have the family, they're gonna judge us. We're not good enough. If I want to be working my 9 to 5, or I want to be the CEO of my company and sleep there, they're gonna judge me because then I don't have a family and I don't have a life, right? So we're constantly battling with what people think
Now,
of
you
us.
guys are definitely judged more than men.
Constantly.
A million
It's
percent.
never enough. So I just want them to thrive and understand that everything starts from working on themselves, on their mindsets, and believing that they are capable of living the life they want, whatever that looks to them. And like you just said, and that's where I agree with you. Because if not working and being with just their kids at home is fulfilling for them, then they find their purpose.
Yeah. Like, I think my mother-in-law, being a stay-at-home mom, I always make fun of her because I felt like she would cook 2 dinners every day. Because when the kids came home, they had like rice, beans, and meat ready. And then there was rice and beans for dinner. And I was like, hold on a second. Don't make 2 dinners in my house, okay? Because she lives with me now. And she just, her whole brain and her whole process was that. Take care of the kids, make them breakfast in the morning, take them to school, clean the house, take care of the house, take care of her husband, take care of this, take care of that. And I think she was okay with that. I don't think there was a part of her mind that said, I need to go work.
Yeah.
She works now because now she's alone and she's with me. And so she just wants to go make some money, right?
Yeah. And I also believe, I don't mean to cut you off, is social media, right? We're constantly scrolling and we're seeing who's living better than us, who's traveling the world. Oh, but they have kids, they have families, they have a husband, or they might be a single mom. And why are they doing it, not me? And I feel like that's when we compare ourselves.
It's free.
And we feel that we're not where we should be.
I agree with you. And I think it's so much worse than what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think social media is so much worse for people in general. Yeah. But for women, it's next level. Because women in social media have all directions. You've got everything from the crazy, sharp entrepreneur who's running a multi-million-dollar business to the person that's a 9 to 5 that has a great job and like hangs out on the beach on the weekends, to the family mom, all the way to the OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be naked on social media all the time. And that's how I'm going to gain my attention. And that's how I'm going to make money. It's all so many different spectrums.
It is.
Like, for men, it's not like that.
No,
right?
It's
like,
not. I agree.
Yeah, we either got bums or non-bums. Like, that's, that's it.
It's awesome.
That's it.
It's constantly.
Doesn't matter what your culture is, what your color is, where you're from, none of that shit. You either bum or you're not.
Yeah, so true.
You either make money or you don't. That's it. That's how we judge each other. And men don't typically judge each other to begin with. Like, no man looks at another man from across the room and goes, look at his pants.
No, women are constantly doing that. And,
right.
And it's just something like you try to control, and it's just something within us, right?
Right.
And sometimes you judge.
But now it's worse with social media because now you see so much more.
Yes, and then it goes back to comparing ourselves to them.
Right.
Right? Or we feel like they're pretty.
I don't have that body. Or I don't look that way.
Or why is she having all this time to go to the gym? And
I don't have those degrees. Or
so it's just that constantly comparison, but then also we don't do anything to fix it. And I decided a couple, like maybe a year, 2 years ago, I got off social media, but being intentional, right? Like, you can see me scrolling from here and there. I'm human, but I've learned to no, I'm going to utilize this for the reasons that I have to get the voice out there, to post the content that I need to post, to connect with the community. But it's hard.
Listen, my wife put a timer on her social media on the phone.
Is it working?
No, because when it goes off and it cuts her off, she just goes and resets it and then starts it again.
It's hard.
I go, it doesn't work if you know the password.
Yeah. It's hard, but honestly, I've seen a game changer because it doesn't allow you to be present or time manage yourself or overall get things done.
Right.
Because that's when the comparison starts happening. You already wasted 2 hours scrolling when you could have been doing something productive.
It's funny because social media has been known, so scientifically, social media releases endorphins in people's bodies.
Yeah.
And those endorphins make people happy. And the endorphins that are being released and the enzymes that are being released from the brain are similar to being addicted to cocaine or crack. Is that crazy? Right? So like scientifically, a person who's addicted to crack is similar to someone who's addicted to social media. The brain is releasing the same enzyme and same serotonin levels, right? And so it's hard to break away from it because you think it's not that bad, but it is.
It is.
Because then what equally happens while you're in there is you start to self-compare.
100%.
Look what this person has. Look what this person is doing. I'll be honest with you, that does happen to guys. Not as much, but it happens to us too. We work really hard. We're doing everything in the world we can to provide and supply. And then we see somebody that has a similar job to us driving a Lamborghini and we go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why don't I have a Lamborghini? What am I doing wrong? And then you start doing some research to see how much more money you can make by shifting this and shifting that and, changing positions and opening up a new business.
But being real about it, yeah.
Right.
It's true.
But very rare do men go, you know what? I'm happy where I'm at and it's cool. And I'm just going to go spend more time with my family. Driven men, at least,
But there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that
not.
at all. But it's rare. That's a rarity.
I agree. But social media has a lot.
I actually think I wish I was more like that sometimes. I do. But my brain doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a million miles an hour.
Same thing
And by the way, I learned that from my mom.
I know. It's hard.
Because my mom was always at a million miles an hour, And my mom wasn't an entrepreneur or anything like that. She was a teacher for 34 years. She retired. She also lives with me. And so I have a joke. I'll tell you the joke later. But and she just, I just saw her move so much my whole life, like going to school and working hard and, and then a second job as a professor at a university and the this and the that, and Saturday morning teaching a class. And
she was constantly
on the go. I swear, if it was cool to be an entrepreneur in the 70s, my mom would have killed it.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
And because you now are an entrepreneur, it's 10 times faster for you.
Yeah.
It's crazier.
But for her, I swear, and I think it's right now, it's cool to be an entrepreneur, which I wish it wasn't. Because people don't know how much work goes into
a lot
being an entrepreneur, I wish we had more of a workforce, and that the entrepreneurship mindset was still a little bit limited. I think it's technology and everything else has come to the world and it's made everybody capable of being an entrepreneur. And I think it's killed the workforce.
That is true.
It's tough.
It's the same thing with influencers, right?
Right.
Like
an influencer doesn't want a real job. They want to make videos. And then they call that a real job.
Yeah. I was just going to go.
Right. And it might be a ton of work. I've seen influencers complain. You guys don't know how much time I spend in front of the camera and how many scripts I have to write and how many things I have to think of and how to stay cool still and stay in tune. And I have to hire photographers and videographers and studios. And okay, maybe it is a lot of work. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I'm not here to judge them.
100%.
Because I just don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't care. Right. Yeah. So I like what you're doing with helping people, or women in particularly, become massively comfortable with the decisions that they make.
Yeah.
That I think that's really important, because I think we just had a great conversation about how scatterbrained you can become looking at everything else in the world.
Yeah. And there was a time where I was trying to decide, well, I love helping women, right? I have this community, but who do I want to really help dig deep and really release that? And then I was like, wait, all of us are trying to get out there.
Oh.
All of us are trying to fit in, right? Or we're being judged. So I just want to help them all as much as I can wherever they are in their lives. There's no right, there's no wrong.
So my cousin's husband used to run a workshop for executive women. And I always found that interesting.
Yeah.
Because here's this man who retired military, wrote a book about it and everything. Like wow. He just, and he would host these courses that were really tough for women to swallow. And it was interesting because he only focused on 6-figure earning, executive women or entrepreneurs that couldn't find a relationship. And so his mission in his workshops was to help them get out of their own way so that they can meet somebody.
Love that.
You know, because the idea, I hear it all the time, oh, there's no good men out there. Man, come on. There's a lot of good men out there.
Yeah.
You're just,
especially when they're in the
you
work
keep saying that,
space.
they gonna want to be with you.
24/7. I agree.
Yeah. You know, and again, if you have that mindset, then you're not going to find a good man because you've instantly told yourself there's no good man.
And you're not going to attract.
Right. You're not going to attract a good 100%. Man. Right. And then you're also spending all your time hustling and working and doing everything. When are you intending to find one? And can you be comfortable without one? Would that be okay? Or can you be comfortable with a casual relationship? And some of this is good, some of it's bad. I think people need to be in relationships mentally. I think people need people. You know, I always say that people are pack animals. You know, if you take a human and you put them on a lonely island somewhere for a year, they'll come back crazy. And it's because they have no socialization, they have no people.
It's very important. Right,
it's very important. So I think the longer you spend alone, the tougher it becomes on you mentally.
100%. And I've had friends like that too, and it's hard.
It's hard.
That they feel like they haven't found the one, or there's no good man. And really, if you look at their life choices or what they're doing right now for a living, they're not allowing themselves to find the right man, but also that mindset of thinking they're not going to, they're attracting the wrong ones.
Right.
So it's a constant
so the ones that they do meet do suck.
Yeah.
Because they keep calling that. Right. Yeah. So how do women, now we've got women listening to this for sure. Right. How do women break through? I'm going to give you the example. It's usually executive woman who works a lot of hours, makes a lot of money. In her mind, she's thinking, there's no good men out there, number one. Number two, all these superstar executive men that make a lot of money are all over the place. They want to screw everybody. And number three, I also don't want to date a guy or be with a man that makes less money than me. If you could sit across from this person one-on-one, what would you say to them?
The first thing is really finding out who they are before they start searching for a man. Because I feel like right now, a lot of women are, like you said, let's put the executive ones, right? They want a career and they want to make the money they want to make. They maybe not want to start a family, but they want to have a man. But then they don't make time for themselves to take care of themselves, to balance career with their personal life. Right? Because they might have a good man and they keep, I'm busy right now. I have a meeting. I get it. It's important, but not setting those priorities, which is so important to like make any relationship healthy. But it's really finding out first about themselves. And then second, finding out the type of man they want and making it a priority. So if you want a good man and you want a businessman and overall you want to be in a relationship, then you have to make time for that. Right? You need to be intentional with your time, with your career. You need to have that balance because we can work. And then at the end, we might still not be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think that's also important that people feel, well, I'm making money and I'm just working, I'm living, but then they're losing, like you said, the passion of, well, I don't have friends, I don't have families, I don't have a loved one. And then they start feeling lonely and they get used to that, thinking that that's okay.
What? Do you think that Dr. Female could be happily married to janitor male in the way that a woman's mind works?
Honestly, no. And it all goes down because as women, we also, I believe, and what I've talked with my girlfriends and overall with the community of the women that I've connected with, they always want to be able to have stability with a man that knows where he's heading, right? Not saying that being a janitor is not a career or something that,
nothing negative about it.
Nothing negative about it, but they want
But it's not doctor. Right, we can agree on that.
They feel like, okay, I have a man that not financially will take care of me, but knows where he's heading, right? It's like when we were young, right? You would date someone, it's like, oh, what do you want to do when you, I don't know, when you graduate? What? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I mean, I don't, like, not knowing where they're heading, what they want to do. Like, I feel that is a big turnoff for us.
Yeah.
Right? Of not having that ambitions of thinking big, and not just necessarily being a business owner or having a lot of money. It's overall just like bettering themselves.
Yeah.
So with that stage of mine and different careers, I just don't feel
it doesn't work.
No.
You know, I find that sometimes women, and again, I'm speaking from experience because almost my whole family's women, right? I feel like sometimes women go the extreme, right? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I have a 27-year-old daughter, and I have a 25-year-old daughter, and I'm still not a granddad, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how old you were when I was 19 when I had kids, right? As a matter of fact, my mom got mad. She was like, wait a minute, I'm too young. What are they going to call me? Grandma, Nana? What are we doing here? You know? And I think that's a little disappointing to me because they don't want to have kids.
They made the decision they don't.
They made the decision that they don't want to be mothers. And I find that a little disappointing. I find it a little daunting, right? Because I feel like, how could a woman not want to do the one thing that only she can do?
Yeah.
I can't do it. Your husband can't do it. Right? Your husband's sitting there, my brother-in-law's over. We can't do it.
Yeah.
The only person in this room that can create life is you. And so I look at that and I go, wow. And then you start thinking as a dad, like, what did I do wrong?
No, and it's nothing from you, because I've had this conversation also. And when you ask them why they don't want to have kids, it's nothing to do with them not wanting to be a mom, but it's deep. It's more deep.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of time it's being scared that they choose the wrong men, or comparing themselves. Well, if my friends have had this relationship or this experience, that might be me. Or the whole concept that once you have kids, it ruins your life.
Right.
And I think that's the most powerful one, because same thing with me. When I became a mom, I used to do bodybuilding before. I was in modeling. I was in that industry. And the first thing they would tell me is, well, say bye to the abs. You're never going to see them again. And yeah, it starts thinking, because you're like, okay, maybe not, but why? After I had my kids, especially my first one, within like 9 months, I was at the gym with him and I was able to get back to my body mode, right?
Yeah.
It took me a little bit longer with my second, but that was because of my mental health. So that's where I go back to a lot of women, is that they don't want to. I just feel that it depends the stage that they're in, and that's why they have to dig deep. They might change their mind, I'm sure. But I feel right now it might be those.
I don't know, man. I think my 28-year-old is running out of time, right? Because there is a clock for healthy reasons, right? But she does have a good boyfriend, and they have their place in Jersey, and we'll see what happens.
You never know. Well, I had my first one at, I believe, 26, 27, Liam.
My 25-year-old is like dead set. Like anyone she dates, she's like, I just want you to know I'm not having kids. And I think I know where it comes from, and I won't talk about it because I'm gonna put her business out there. Of course. But I think I do know where it comes from. I just wish it wasn't the case. Yeah. Plus, she's studying to be an attorney, so I don't need her to do it right now, because that will mess up her path.
Especially being an attorney.
Right, yeah. Right. And being in school, not that she can't do it. We'd all support her, but why add the stress, right?
Of course.
Go be an attorney first and then figure it out, So I'm not mad at her about it. Then I look at like my 17-year-old, and she's very knows exactly what she wants to do with her life, knows exactly what school she wants to attend, knows exactly very what determined career she wants to have. Her boyfriend, on the other hand, is a guy. And guys at 17, 18 years old, we're like,
that's what we're talking about, yeah.
Well, we were just talking about it. That's why it came to my mind, And she looks at him and goes, hey, listen.
Yeah.
Figure this out, because I'm going to do this. So if this is a long-term thing, you need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I like that him over time, he's really adjusted. He's starting to figure it out, because he's seeing it and he's going, she's going to fly without me.
Yeah.
So I need to shape up and figure this out.
Which that's a good thing.
It is a great thing,
because it takes guys a little bit longer until they lose the women, or overall, it just brings them down to that path.
I think he's learning in the process.
Yeah.
rather than learning from the loss, right? Which I think is a great thing for him and for her if they decide to stay together
and then
forever.
she also spoke about it, because I feel as women too, we don't stand firm.
Right, okay.
And we don't talk about certain things because we don't want like the men to feel a certain way.
Is it because of confrontation, or is it because you don't want to put the man down in a certain way?
Like you just said earlier, men and women think differently, right? So when we are what you guys might think complaining or nagging all the time, but I'm just working, I'm being the provider, right? With that mindset, right? Of entrepreneurship or just a businessman, or just even having a 9 to 5, they don't want to carry that weight on them. So as women, we kind of like question ourselves. So it's hard or like I say, like I'm the kind of women, it's to the point, like either we have to have this conversation or I'm just tired of it. And maybe I move on, right? Because yo aguanto hasta el último, pero como decimos, right?
Yeah.
But at her age, that's amazing that she was able to own it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I give props to her mom, my wife, because they speak a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's powerful too.
Yeah.
To have that relationship.
And so she helps her stay on track, but she also helps her understand what the world is like, you know? Have you ever read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?
I started reading it. I haven't finished
Very good book. So I gave it to my 17-year-old because she used to get frustrated with him. She couldn't understand why he would think in certain ways or why he would say certain things. I was like, all right, kid, let me explain this to you.
Yeah.
We are not built like you. So I'm going to give you this book to read and just dial in on that and get a better understanding of what's going on.
And I've heard that phrase a lot. We're not built like you.
We're just not.
Yeah.
We're not. And the entire book says like the idea is that men are, born and raised on Mars, women are born and raised on Venus. And they just have an entire different culture. And so when you try to put the two together, there's a learning experience.
Yeah.
And that learning curve requires effort and time and desire to actually get through that curve. Otherwise, we'll never understand each other. We'll never know when to keep going or when to slow down or when to not say something or when to say something. You'll never learn that if you don't accept the fact that there's a curve, you know?
Yeah, and that book really helped me too, especially in my relationship with my husband, because before that, I would constantly react, right? And I was constantly like in my own head, but why, like thinking that, for example, you can read what I want and what I need, but I never communicated it.
Right.
And I think that's important too, as women, we get to a certain age or a certain time that it's important to have those foundations. Like it's important for him to have his time and you to have yours, that if he did something wrong, instead of whining about it, communicate it. Now, if he knew about it and he still did it, it's a different story.
Yeah, right.
Right. And those are things too that I feel as women, we have to work on to have better relationships.
I saw a comedian on Instagram, right? And I thought it was hilarious because he's like, women just don't understand how men think.
No.
And he said, we don't think. He goes, wives, when you ask your husband, babe, what are you thinking right now? And he goes, nothing. He's not lying to you. He's really not thinking about anything. Right?
It just happened the other day, looking at the TV, and I'm like, looking at it. What are you thinking of? He's like,
nothing.
I'm like, you're not watching TV, but I know you're thinking of something.
He goes, men are thinking about one or three things: nothing, sex, or money. That is it. So if you really want to know what's going on in our brain,
one of those three.
It's one of those three, you know?
That's so true.
If you could, actually, I have a really good idea for you. I don't know if you've done it before. It just came in my head. I think you should have, like, I don't know, an event.
Okay.
A panel event for all the women in your network. And it should be called What Men Are Thinking.
Oh, I like that.
And I think you should have 3 successful men on the panel and just ask them questions so that women could better understand how
I love that.
Their brain operates, right? So that maybe they go back home to their significant other and look at them and go, I see that now.
And I think that's important, right?
Yeah, I think it's so important.
It's constantly like supporting men, I'm supporting women.
Right.
But then we don't have that foundation of having real conversations like this to help relationships or help overall people that are trying to find the one or communicate better. Because I think that's important. It's that communication.
I also think that you can't just grow alone. You have to understand the other
100%.
side. If you really want to grow, you have to understand. You don't have to know. I'll never know you. I'll never know my wife like that. But I can understand how my wife operates.
Yeah.
Understand it well enough to where I don't fuck it up, right? And she can do the same thing. She'll never truly know how a man operates and things, but she can understand how I operate and how I think.
That's powerful.
Right? And I think that really helps you level up as a man or a woman.
I agree.
Right?
I love that.
That's a great idea for you. If you could put 5,000 women in a stadium, what's your number one message to them?
Overall, for the topics that we'll be discussing?
No, just your number one message. Like if you could just walk on stage, say one thing, and walk off, and it would impact all 5,000 women, what would it be? What's the most important message you feel?
I would tell them that they have the power to rewrite their story. Because a lot of us stay stuck where we're at, or in a relationship, or in a career, or overall, and wherever we're heading, thinking that that's what we were meant to do. Because that's what they taught us to do, or that's what we know. That we constantly go to all these seminars, we go to all these events, we connect with all these people, and then we leave still empty, thinking that we're, like we said, the comparison, we're not where we should be, or I still don't feel happy where I'm at, and why I thought this was my calling. It's never too late to rewrite your story.
Right.
And I think that's powerful, because it's true what they say, that you only get to live once. And sometimes you think it's just living your best life and, you know, traveling and spending all this money and finding that fulfillment with materials, but it's really different. Once you find the fulfillment with something that makes you truly happy, that brings you that peace.
Yeah. There's, I really love that. And I think, you know, there's something that comes to my mind where I always tell people, don't compare your inside to other people's outsides.
That's that, yeah.
Right? You see somebody on the yacht hanging out, blah, blah, and you're living your life. You're basically, you know what's going on in your life. You don't know what's going on in theirs. Yeah. That could be just the one day that they had, and the next 30 days of their lives are going to be disappointing, depressing. You don't want their life. You don't know that. Yeah, you know? The other thing that I say is, you know, don't compare your year 5 to someone's year 25. Right? Because you're looking at somebody really successful and you're going, man, why am I not that successful? Well, because he's 20 years ahead of you. Right? And then as you were saying what you said, I just came up with another thought in my head. And I said, like you said, you have the power to rewrite your story. And my first thought was, but you have to make sure that your story is not built on somebody else's story.
Yes.
Right? Because we've had conversation about how people are looking at other people, trying to be those people.
And they think that if they do that, they're going to get the same results.
And they're going to find fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's never that.
No.
You know, it's never that. Like
it's constantly searching the wrong fulfillment, which again, you keep feeling, well, I accomplished this already. Why is it still not enough? Because you're searching for the wrong things. Yeah.
Your story is your story. It's really interesting. And I think that you're onto something really strong here.
Thank you.
And I wish you a ton of luck and success. I think you're in for a battle. Because I've learned in my life that the hardest mind to change is a woman's brain.
It is.
Right? Because women are determined. And what they believe is what they believe. And I think maybe, you know, that's coming from me as a man, right? Yeah. Like I try to tell my wife something, she's like, no, you know. And don't get me trying to tell my daughter something. God.
No, it
right.
Is.
So, you know, no matter how right I am, I could be like, gravity keeps you on the floor, and they'll be like,
no, it's very defensive,
right? Nah, you know.
But I found also when we are very vulnerable and we really connect and we understand, we are willing to change.
That's where I think you're winning, because if you create the right environment, it really has to be the right environment, because women around women sometimes is not the best environment. They get competitive, they get catty, they talk about each other, they compare. But if you create a room where women make a decision to say, I want to listen and internalize, and then talk with the people around me and understand them so I can understand myself better, right? If you can create that environment, I mean, I think you change people's lives over and over and over again, you know? And the funny part is you're trying to make it better for women, but that's not, I don't think that's the real mission. I think for every woman that you make better for herself, it's better for her family.
I love that.
Because the woman is the force.
Yeah.
Right? Men, we provide, we work, we caveman, we right? Like, but the woman is the center force of the house.
Yeah.
The woman is the center force. She's the mother, she's the wife, she's the daughter. She's the center force. Everything revolves around her.
I love that you say that. I always tell them, when you fulfill your own cup, magic happens, right? Not only will you show up as a better wife, as a better mom, house chores, at your career, transform. But you can't keep pouring from an empty cup. And I know we just hear that and we think it's a myth, but it's real.
It's real.
Right?
Yeah.
When you have, and you take a woman, or she just has a spa day, or she does her nails, and she just is disconnected from the phone, from her family, just really enjoying
embraces herself.
And embracing herself, she comes back 10 times better.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, that we are constantly taking care of everyone and everything around us, that we'd never do that for ourselves.
Listen, my wife goes to do her nails for 4 hours, and she said, oh, I hate it. I hate doing my nails. But she always comes back like,
look at my
nails. You're right. Like, she comes back significantly happier than she was when she left.
Yeah.
So I just look at her and I go,
Because there's her mind of like, we're just sitting 2-4 hours doing our nails. We could be doing so much more. We haven't done
right. She's trying
we need to make this call. We need to pick up the kids. So we're constantly like not really focused.
But then when they're done, she's like in seventh heaven for the next 2 weeks.
There we go.
Until one chips, and then it's all over.
You're so right about that. I love that.
I think you're onto something great. I think that you know, like I said, I think the mission is deeper than you see it. Because like we said, and like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that there's something that I coach consistently. And anyone that hires me to coach them, the entire first stage of our coaching is bettering them as a human being.
I love that.
Right? Where's your faith? Where's your health? Where's your fitness? Where's your time by yourself?
Yeah. That's the foundation.
That's the foundation of it.
Yeah.
Man or woman, right? And when you can better yourself, then you can provide for other people. If you can't take care of yourself, very difficult to take care of other people. 100%. You know, and people that talk about this at this nature, they always use the example of the airplane, right? If the mask comes down, you put yours on first, and then the kids. Right? And it's you know, as a woman, you have to find time. I don't care if it's at 4 a.m., but you have to find time to take care of yourself, because
it makes a difference, even if it's 15 minutes.
And I'm going to say this, because your job is harder than everybody else's job in that house.
And thank you for recognizing that, because it's hard, especially from a men's perspective, to see that. So for all the women listening, and for myself, it's a reminder that we need to, that you guys see it. Maybe you don't tell us.
I think most men see it. Most men don't connect with it.
Yeah.
Like, men understand it. But I don't know that men feel like they need to say it out loud.
Of course. Because
the man's brain says, she knows.
Laughing.
Right? It's true. Everybody's laughing in the room, by the way. Right? Everybody just went, oh, oh, oh. Right? Like, so, you know, it's, for us, how could you not know? For you, you're like, I wish you would just tell me one time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it was a great interview and podcast. I hope that this podcast reaches as many people as necessary.
Thank you.
And really, really changes some lives. And by the way, like, just, you know, find her on Instagram. Your Instagram is?
I am Jeanette Miranda.
I am Jeanette Miranda. It's 1 N 2 T's.
Thank you.
Yes. And you can find Rooted in Her, Taboo Talks Latina Edition. Find her, follow her, become a fan, attend her events. I think she's on the verge of changing an entire generation of women, and in turn making an entire generation of families better for it. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having me.
you.
Thank you.